1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this most artsy and indeed fartsy episode of Monster Movie Fun Time Go. This evening, we will be examining a work from the oeuvre of film auteur Jim Jarmusch, Only Lovers Left Alive. Joining me this evening is Caleb Mendez. Welcome to the show, Senor Mendez.
Thanks for having me.
All right, enough of that crap. This is definitely the most artsy movie we will be watching this 31 Days of Horror. It's another day in 31 Days of Horror. Welcome to day 15. Caleb, thanks for coming back to the show again.
Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
As I said, we're looking at Only Lovers Left Alive. It is from 2013. It's 123 minutes. It's in color. Directed by Jim Jarmusch. Budget of $7 million. Box office of $7.6 million.
Barely made it back.
Yes.
Breaking even.
Yeah. It stars Tilda Swinton as Eve, Tom Hiddleston as Adam, Mia or Maya, not sure which, Wasikowska as Ava,
I can't pronounce her last name either.
Anton Yelchin, the late Anton Yelchin as Ian, Jeffrey Wright as Dr. Watson, Slimani Daisy as Bilal, John Hurt, love John Hurt as Christopher
Love it.
Marlowe, Yasmin Hamdan as Yasmin, she appears to be playing herself, and White Hills as themselves.
Well,
I mean,
alright.
she's a singer who's playing a singer, and she's named Yasmin, and the character's named Yasmin. So she's not credited as herself, but she appears to be playing herself.
Yeah, seems so.
So, Caleb, first impressions?
Okay, so definitely one of the more artsy films for your show.
Yeah.
Putting it on, I was like, okay, yeah, this is quite an artsy little movie, but I quite enjoyed it. It was definitely a slow burn of a movie the entire time. Very much a slow ride, but I liked it a lot. I loved the depiction of the vampires. I thought it was rather fun.
I liked it as I was watching it, but when I got to the end, I was kind of like, well, that's it? I don't know if I'd even call it a slow burn. I'm not sure it burns.
Yeah,
Like, I watched another slow burn the other day. We're not doing it this year, but I will mention it. It's a new movie, House of Darkness.
Oh, okay.
And it is a very slow burn, but then it goes off in the last scene. And I kept expecting that with this movie. I kept expecting there to be a turn, and there wasn't.
Yeah, there was nothing that picked up the pace in this movie. I guess you're right. There was no burn about it. It was just a slow film.
It's we should say it's about a couple of vampires, and I've seen some bloodless vampire movies before, but this is right up there with My Mother's Dating a Vampire for lack of blood. The only bite from a vampire that happens off camera.
Yeah, it happens off camera, and then we see just the completely drained body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very little vampirism going on, but I guess it makes sense for the theme that the movie's kind of going for, this existential dread of vampires in the 21st century. How are they going to fit in? What are we supposed to do? We can't just go around murdering people like we used to.
Right.
So it's quite an issue, and they have to find different supplies for it. It's an interesting take.
This is the opposite of what we see in some vampire movies, where some dum-dum gets the idea that we should not be lurking in the shadows, we should be ruling the world. I'm going to do a thing that will make that happen. And of course he always gets shut down, or she, whoever the dum-dum is that tries this crap. There's always some other vampires in the background going, no, don't do that. These vampires have decided long ago, we're just going to lay low and just drink what we have to drink. We're not going to throw any wild raves with blood in the sprinkler system or anything like that.
Yeah, there were no
We're just gonna
vampire
chill.
sex parties. No vampire
Yes.
sex parties at all.
Yes. And I'm not sure there is any vampire sex. I have a thing about vampire sex. I discussed this in another episode.
Yeah. Anytime I see it, I bring up some complications and issues that I have with it as well.
Well, yeah, I feel, they're dead.
Yes.
And that's not how they reproduce. They
No, not at all.
reproduce infectiously. So although they can be sexy and use that to lure in their human victims, there shouldn't be any actual intercourse going on. They shouldn't be producing any of the stuff that leads to that.
Yeah,
And
not at all.
usually there's an idea that the drinking of the blood is more exciting than that could be anyway. Although sometimes it's just what you got to do. I think in this one there was a little bit of the blood was an addiction, a drug and an addiction.
Yeah, it seemed like O negative blood was a bit
That's
addictive.
the good stuff. That's
the good stuff. Yeah.
So these two vampires have been married for centuries, Adam and Eve. I don't think we're meant to believe they're the Adam and Eve, and it does seem that the director named them after the Diaries of Adam and Eve from Mark Twain rather than the Bible.
Yeah.
They've been married, but they've been living apart. I think just they need space. It doesn't imply that they've had a big fight or anything. They've been married so long, it's okay if they spend some time apart.
They need a little bit of space, and then Adam is this sort of reclusive, tortured artist.
Yeah.
That wants to be at home and make music, while Eve is very much an extroverted, I want to see the world and go and do stuff. Polar opposites. So it kind of makes sense that they're a little bit separated so they can do their own things.
But they get together early in the film. Oh, but this is where I was getting to the vampire sex part. I just thought I need to establish that
Yeah.
they're married and they've known each other for a while. But they just seem to lay in each other's laps and have a cuddle or something. And there's a scene where they're lying in bed naked, but they're lying apart from each other. They're facing each other, but they're not entwined. There's no implication that they've had intercourse or are going to.
No, not at all.
So I think these vampires don't do that.
Yeah, I don't think so. It seems that their relationship is just more on a emotional intimacy kind of level than anything sexual. Yeah.
So he's holed up in his apartment making music that he doesn't want anyone else to hear. And we get this movie. Okay, this movie kind of pissed me off.
Okay. Tell me why.
Apparently Jim Jarmusch does not believe in Chekhov's gun.
Ah, okay.
Because that's just one of the things that pissed me off. Because we get what appears to be a Chekhov's gun. He has commissioned a special wooden bullet to be made from the hardest wood you can get. And he has a gun to put this bullet in. But it never gets used. Not on himself, not on somebody else. Nobody else picks it up. The implication, well, not implication, they come around and show it. He's gotten this bullet on spec thinking he might want to end it all at some point. He's got it just so he has it if he just can't take it anymore. And Eve, when she finds it, confronts him about it. But he doesn't use it on himself. He doesn't use it on anyone else. No one else uses it on him. She finds it and brings it up, and then it goes away, and we never see it again. And that is not how you implement Chekhov's gun.
So I have an interesting and slightly different take, because I was a bit upset about that. It's the entire movie. He never shot it. I was expecting him to maybe shoot Ava, Eve's sister, because of what she did later on in the movie.
That was a perfect opportunity.
I felt so too. However, near the end of the movie, what I think Jim Jarmusch was going for was like a reverse gotcha sort of Chekhov's gun, because at the end of the movie, after Adam leaves and he goes to Tangier with Eve, she gives him a lute made of the same wood as the bullet. So I think he was going for some sort of metaphorical, this thing that he wanted to use to kill himself is actually something that can give him new life somewhere else or something like that, man. I'm not going to pretend that I'm that smart to know, but I did catch that the lute was made of the same exact wood as the bullet in the beginning. So while he didn't shoot himself with the bullet, he does use the lute made of the same material later on.
Okay.
So maybe that's something.
So maybe it's just Chekhov's wood and not Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, maybe.
They do mention that they make guitars out of it. Poor Ian.
Oh, yeah.
She comes to visit and finds out he's depressed, introduces him to blood popsicles, which I'm having trouble believing they had not thought of that until now.
Yeah, that is a bit odd.
Until 2013, that was the first time it occurred to them to make popsicles out of blood. I would think the first time they saw a popsicle, they would have said, huh.
Yeah, maybe we should try that out.
Yeah. And there's this kid, Ian, who he pays to do stuff for him. He finds him rare instruments. He's supposed to keep the rock and roll kids away from his door.
Yeah, he's like his just one and only friend that he has, and pays him and hires him to run errands. Yeah.
And then Eve comes to visit. They just sort of hang out and they go for a couple of drives around Detroit. That's where it takes place. She's been living in Tangiers. He's living in Detroit. They talk on the phone and she realizes he's depressed, so she comes to visit. Says goodbye to William Hurt, who is playing Marlowe. Which fucking Marlowe is he? Christopher
Marlowe.
Christopher.
Yeah, Christopher Marlowe.
Christopher Marlowe. We'll get to that bullshit in a second.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the other thing that pissed me off.
Gotcha.
And everybody's been having dreams about Eve's sister Ava, who then shows up. Apparently has been trying to track them down, and I guess was able to do that through her dreams.
Yeah.
Through their dreams?
Kind of implied that there are just these other supernatural powers that these vampires have, but it never goes into explaining it. It just kind of is a thing, which I like. I like a bit more of showing than telling, and just like, this exists. We don't have to talk about it because we kind of already know about it.
Yeah, they all indicate that, when we're all having dreams about her, she must be looking for us. Mm-hmm. And somehow this means that she is able to track them down. And she did something that pissed them all off years ago. They don't go into what it was. But then she does, if not the same thing, something similar to do it again. Because they all go out with Ian, who happens to stop by. Go out to a bar, listen to the band playing themselves, the White Hills.
Yep.
And then come back to and there's a guy there. I kept thinking maybe this is where the gun will come in. Maybe this guy is somebody. Ian does a little business with another guy who seems to be kind of giving Adam the side eye, or Adam's giving him the side eye. But nothing comes of that. Yeah. It looked like maybe I thought he was a vampire maybe, and that was going to be some source of conflict, but nope.
Yeah, I had two thoughts about that scene, and it was, one, either that guy's a vampire, or two, Ian has been selling copies of Adam's music to other people and DJs on the down low, and Adam kind of caught him in it.
Yes, his music keeps getting out somehow, and it's got to be Ian.
Yeah.
But Ian acts like I would never do that. And he sells this guy a black album with a black label with absolutely no text on it, and also high grain count in the vinyl or something. I don't know anything about vinyl. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But they indicate it's a high quality. The actual vinyl itself is high quality. Mm-hmm. We hear some of Adam's music in that club while they're there. So if he has caught him at it, he doesn't say anything about it.
No, I don't know. I feel like while he doesn't want his music out there, he also secretly does. It's so weird how...
Yeah, because years ago, he gave Schubert one of his quartets or something just to get it out there. Asked Schubert to release it under his own name.
Yes. Yeah. He's a weirdo. He's a weird artist.
Yeah. And they drink some of the good stuff out of a flask and won't let Ian have any. And they go back home, and Ava is all over poor Ian. And Adam is like, it's time for you to go home, Ian. And she's, oh, just let him finish his beer. So they go off to bed like a couple of dum-dums. They should have known, really, what Ava was going to do. He should have made sure he saw Ian leave. But they don't, and they get up the next morning, and she has, you drank Ian.
Oh yeah, Ian did not make it home. He was just a Capri Sun to this young vampire.
Yeah. But it all happens bloodlessly off camera.
Yeah.
So they get upset and throw her out and dispose of the body. But then they decide they got to leave town. I would think they'd be used to dealing with this kind of thing. But they decide,
man, in the 21st century, I'm not sure. Like, I'm under the assumption that they evolved with the times, and they kind of stopped with the hunt and the murdering people. So we haven't needed to discard of a body, but because
he knew where to dump him, where he was going to dissolve almost instantly.
That is true, but maybe it's because they even said it in the movie. It's like there are people who can place us with him.
Yes,
that night.
They were all out together at a club full of people.
Yep.
So if Ian has anybody that's looking for him, they can track it back to them. So they just go all the way to Tangiers to get away from that.
Yep. Which is a good thing for Adam, having not really left Detroit. But man, when they get to Tangiers, it is not looking good. They are both completely depleted of any supply of blood that they've had because Ava had drunk all of it.
That's right.
And they are sick and dying from what it looks like, for as much as a vampire can look sick and dying. And
Eve says, don't worry, kids, we'll have good stuff for us when we get there. But he doesn't. He is suffering because he drank some bad stuff. They mention a few times that there's a lot of blood that's contaminated, but they don't say specifically what by. Yeah, like there is no implication of what it is, drugs, alcohol, or maybe like diseases or something like that. Yeah. I mean, if they got through the plague years... yeah, that's kind of what my issue is. Blood. It's like, what is it that you haven't already dealt with before? Right. Yeah, that's... but whatever it is, Kit has gotten a hold of some of it, and he is sick and dying after all these years. And he's got some human helper, who seems to know what's going on. And she knew Eve. We saw him earlier. Mm-hmm. And he himself is a writer who Kit assures us is good. So here's the other thing that pisses me off. Jim Jarmusch apparently subscribes to the Marlovian theory of Shakespearean authorship. And that is just some bullshit. Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny when he mentioned that he wrote Hamlet, and I'm like, all right, so we're going in that direction. I see. And I didn't catch at first that he was Marlowe. I thought he was Shakespeare. I guess I wasn't paying close enough attention. Mm-hmm. And then when I realized he was Marlowe, I was like, oh no, fuck that shit. Well, she's reading some Shakespeare at some point and says, oh, Marlowe. So Marlowe died 2 months before Shakespeare's first thing was ever published, which for some people is the evidence that Marlowe was Shakespeare. I don't see how that follows, but they're like, oh, isn't it odd that Shakespeare had nothing published in his name until after Marlowe died? I'm like, what? Yeah, what? Man, correlation isn't causation. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, how many other people didn't have anything published until after Marlowe died? Yeah, right. But that's the exact same assumption. These people, though, believe that Marlowe faked his death for whatever reason and then got this patsy Shakespeare to publish his stuff because for whatever reason he had faked his death, it wasn't enough to keep him from writing. And there's other Shakespeare isn't Shakespeare theories, and I think they're all just based on snobbery. Just this disbelief that a simple lower class guy could be a genius. So they got to come up with some bullshit to explain it. Yeah, and it's so weird. it's all just elitism and snobbery, and apparently though, if you know a close analysis of their work might indicate that Shakespeare was influenced by Marlowe, but not that it's the same person. There's
Right.
a lot of things that, just looking at the work itself, there's a lot of stuff that shows that they're two different people. But it's perfectly natural that Marlowe, given the period, that Marlowe would have had an influence on Shakespeare.
Yes.
No, the dying might be, oh, I've been thinking about writing for a long time, and now my hero Marlowe is dead. I should pick up the slack. I should do that. I shouldn't wait till it's too late. Maybe it was Marlowe's death that inspired him to finally write something.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no one really knows.
anyway, yeah, but that pissed me off because I don't subscribe to any of those theories.
Yeah, I just kind of rolled my eyes at it and just said, all right, so this is what we're going to do with this movie. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of kind of heavy-handed references to Marlowe in the film, like Adam's undercover identity when he goes to the hospital as Dr. Faust. That's
Yeah.
proof that Adam does have heroes, because he mentions in the movie that he doesn't have any heroes.
Right. Yes, she says your hero Marlowe says hello, and he's like, I don't have heroes. But then he mentions all these scientists that he apparently admires.
Yes, scientists, writers, artists that he admires and just won't admit that he looks up to.
Yes, and there's all these pictures of people like Poe and Tesla, and he appears to have recreated some of Tesla's work or completed some of Tesla's work. When the power goes out, he's got an energy thing under the floorboards that just absorbs energy from the atmosphere,
Yeah.
which is a thing that Tesla was working on. That part kind of bugged me too when he was complaining about, she says something about the scientists, and he's like, yeah, look what they did to the scientists. And then he mentions 4 or 5 guys that got screwed. And I'm like, there's millions of scientists in the
Yeah.
world, right?
So many
There's
other
been-
dudes that got their due
Yeah.
and the respect, but man, you picked the
There's
5
been-
guys that just got
Right.
screwed.
There's been a lot of them alive now doing stuff. A lot of them throughout history who did important stuff. They didn't all get shit on.
Yeah.
So, but he's also complaining that, and look what's happened. Look what's been done with their science. And I'm like, well, people have a longer lifespan now.
Yeah.
We've
it's
cured all kinds of diseases. You don't
But-
die just from drinking the water. Well, in some places you can die from just drinking the water, but
oh yeah.
we know what to we
Mhm.
know what to do about it now. So, yeah, I think he's just in a grumpy mood.
Yeah. Yeah. He is quite a sad and pessimistic character.
Yeah.
That's just kind of his whole shtick. But yeah, after Marlowe dies right there at the end of the movie, and they have no more good stuff, they are just at a loss for a bit. They see some music that inspires Adam for what it's worth, I guess, being holed up and
Yeah.
hasn't seen much, and he's getting inspired again. But they need to feed.
Oh, he's still
And-
grumpy about that though.
Yes.
He's because Eve is like, oh yeah, she's good. She's going to be famous. And he's like, oh God, I hope not. Because, that's just the worst thing that could happen to an artist is that they become famous.
Yeah, it's like such pessimistic take on art in general, which
Yeah.
I mean, make art for art's sake and not for, that popularity and that fame. But if it comes your way, I mean, awesome.
How horrible to make a living doing what you enjoy.
Exactly, man.
Because, everybody's got to eat. And if
Yeah.
you can eat from making your art, that's not the worst thing that could happen to you.
Yeah, and he has
It's up to you to stay on top of it and not let it get away from you. But
yeah, and that's like his whole worldview.
mhm.
While Eve's is very much of a lighter, more optimistic take. But yeah, right there at the end, he's all pissy about someone who might make it big that he thinks is too good to be famous,
Yeah.
whatever the hell that means. And they're down on their luck, don't know what to
Oh,
do,
but-
and they see a young couple in love and just resort back to that primal vampiric
Yes.
sort of notion.
It's very 15th century, but what choice do we have?
Right.
Uh,
And
they do They do decide, or they say they're going to just turn them, though, not drain them completely and kill them.
Right. Which, I mean, sure, but it could create more problems in the long run. It's,
Yeah.
now you've got
Yeah.
two vampire couples in town that need to feed, and
Yep. And
well,
you're responsible for them.
yeah, it's like, yeah, you are responsible for those people or vampires now. So, oh well. But yeah, the movie ends with them baring their teeth, about to
Yeah.
chomp this couple, and that's
Yeah.
it.
So we get two more implied bites that happen off screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or
very
just don't happen because the movie's over.
right. A very little violence. Not really much blood coming out of anyone. It's like you get a couple hospital scenes, or like someone paper cut themselves to sort of
Yeah.
show that, oh yeah, there's that
And then-
vampiric thirst still within them. They're not. they
And a
can't
little,
just put it away.
some poured into some glasses and
Mm-hmm.
sipped out of the flask. And of course the popsicles.
Yep. And then only one death in the movie, as far as, or I guess two deaths because Marlowe dies, but
Yes.
one death by vampire that we see.
Yes. Yeah. I do think it's all well made. It's all very professionally done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And
think
I
it's very well
enjoyed it.
shot.
I enjoyed it as I was watching it. I just, once it was all over, I was like, oh, okay. That's it then.
After I
It's
finished,
it's a mood piece.
yes, it's very much a mood piece. After I finished the movie, it just made me I thought a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, what was that about? And I guess my conclusion of it is just the human experience. It's kind of like, what are we doing here? And
Yeah.
Adam and
It's a
Eve
little
are just
slice of
existentialism, really. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
and it's kind of a little slice of life or slice of undead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought it was a rather good movie. I had a lot of fun watching it. I thought it was nice. After I was done with it, I liked the relationship the two vampires had. I felt like their struggles were very much human struggles, despite them being vampires. But yeah, there were a couple issues with the movie.
Mhm.
It took some liberties with its own fiction that it was creating, for sure.
Oh, the other thing I wrote down was gloves.
Yeah, apparently they're sensitive to touch or
I don't know. They wear gloves. They appear to wear gloves most of the time when they're out of the house.
Mhm.
And twice when Eve enters the house and when Ava enters the house, they kind of hold out their hands and say, "May I?" before taking off their gloves.
yeah,
He never does tell Ava that she may, but she takes them off anyway. So that was just a weird little bit of vampirism that was not ever explained
yeah,
what
yeah.
that was about.
Maybe it's just some of those more supernatural powers that they have that maybe it's like tied to emotions or something like that. Or maybe they just wear them out in public because they're a bit cold to the touch, and that would probably scare the hell out of somebody. If I don't
Yeah.
know.
I just thought the whole thing of asking permission first was odd.
Yeah, it definitely was a bit weird, and
It's
Like
like he
he-
just wanted to create a random bit of vampire culture and then just puts it there without explaining it at all.
yeah, it's like the dream thing I kind
So-
of got, but the glove thing was a bit odd to me. I still don't 100% fully understand, and I probably won't. I'm not sure if I'll watch this movie again. I mean, I might, but not anytime soon.
Well, if I ever meet Jim Jarmusch, I'm going to say, "Hey, what's the deal with the gloves?"
Yeah, man, tell me what that was about.
I'd be like, "Out of all my work, that's what you want to know?" Yeah,
Yep,
what's with the gloves?
that's the one question.
Also, fuck you. Shakespeare is Shakespeare.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. Now, you said that you found this movie because of an episode of What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes. There's an episode of What We Do in the Shadows where they're taken before the Vampire Council. And the Vampire Council is all actors who have played vampires. And they're all using their own names. So it's Tilda Swinton and Paul Rubens and what's his name? Machete.
Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo. Somebody else that I didn't recognize. I can't remember now who it was.
Yeah, I can't think of too many. I do know.
And they mention, and they Skype in Wesley Snipes, and they call him the Daywalker, and they mention Tom and Brad.
Yeah,
So it'd be Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt.
yeah, Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah,
And then Taika Waititi is there, as well as Jermaine Clements from the movie.
right. Yes.
Now, whenever I
No
watched that
members of the
episode-
council. Tilda, Brad, Deacon Bruckle, Evan Kiefer, Paul, Rob, Tom, Vigo, Vladislav. Some of these I think are known members of I'm looking at a list of known members of the council, but it's also, well, maybe they become members. Maybe Nandor and Nadja and Colin become members.
Spoilers, I haven't gotten that
So
far.
anyway, yeah, I haven't either. So I looked up so after watching this, I recognized that at least two of them were in vampire movies, and I looked up Tilda Swinton to see what movie she had played a vampire in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I ended up at this movie, and it happened, and it's on HBO Max. So I thought, well, what the hell, we'll put it on the list.
Yeah, not too bad. I remember watching that episode, and I knew that most of them played vampires in movies. I just didn't think to look up what Tilda was in or what Danny Trejo was in, where he was a vampire.
He's in From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
And I think he's in more. I think he might be in more than one of them.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought that it was a very funny joke.
Paul Rubens. Yeah, no, they were all chosen because they had played vampires.
Okay.
But yeah, the implication is that they've played vampires because they actually are vampires. Paul Rubens was in the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Mm-hmm.
playing like the second vampire, the second in command vampire. And in that episode, he looks like he does. He has a goatee and long hair in the movie, and he has that same look in the episode. So, yeah, if you've never seen the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you've got to see it. It's a very different performance by Paul Rubens than what you're used to seeing.
Yeah, I'll probably have to check that out.
Boys and girls, Paul Rubens is better known as Pee Wee Herman. So there we go. That's how I came around to this movie, and that's why I ended up watching it. Tilda Swinton is certainly very suited to playing a vampire.
Yes, she is. And Tom Hiddleston, I think, pulls off the very sad and depressed vampire quite well. Much better than Robert Pattinson could ever have done in Twilight, given what he was given.
No, we will never do the Twilight movies on this show.
Oh, thank goodness.
Never. And I don't know if it's come up on this show, but I did not enjoy The Batman. It was exactly the Batman I was afraid of when they first announced that Robert Pattinson was going to be playing Batman.
Wow.
It was exactly what I had some hopes that I would be surprised, but it was exactly what I expected in the worst way possible. So
I loved the movie because it was what I was expecting. It was what I was hoping for in a Batman movie. So,
oof.
yeah.
Oof. I didn't like anything about it except Zoe, who you can't have chemistry just by yourself. But by God, she was giving it her all.
That's fair.
But you can't do it alone. No, he didn't. I don't need the depressed Bruce Wayne. I don't need smells bad Bruce Wayne, because he won't even take a shower and do the Bruce Wayne stuff. He also doesn't solve anything. Everybody else figures stuff out for him. The best part was when the Penguin starts yelling at them for their bad Spanish.
Yeah, that was a good part. That was very funny.
I enjoyed that moment, but no, I didn't care for it. I didn't like what they did with the Riddler. I did not care for it. But,
I gotcha.
They don't make Batman for me anymore. It's not for me. They don't make Superman for me either. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna
well.
do? All right, I think that will wrap it up for this episode, Caleb. Unless you have any final.
I don't think that I really have anything else.
Okay. Yeah, I'm spent. If you're interested in this movie, it is on HBO Max. So a lot of the movies we watch here are on HBO Max. Just a coincidence. We don't have a deal with them or anything. We'll be back tomorrow with another movie in our 31 Days of Horror. But thanks once again. Caleb, you got anything going on you want to tell us about? Any any socials you want to share or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at Caleb Mendes Art on Instagram or at calebmendesart.com. It's my website. Those are really the only two things that you could find me on. If you need me on anything else, no, you don't.
Okay. Well, thanks, Caleb. Maybe next year you can come back and we'll talk about Jim Jarmusch's other horror movie that's an actual horror movie, The Dead Don't Die.
You got it.
Until next time, remember to keep calm and seek shelter in basements. Whatever you do, do not misuse science. I will not see you, but you will hear me next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/MMFTG.
Fun time go!